I think Veru's expression of being Indian, of being queer, having bipolar disorder, has been incredibly powerful in his work.
There's something even deeper than you would expect to find, and it's always something thought-provoking.
It would surprise us because some of his thoughts were so deep or profound, and we would be like, wow, we never thought of that.
This is my little wellness corner for when I do meditation, like in the mornings. This is sort of like my little section. There's this proverb from the Bible, my cup overfloweth. So it's this idea of just to always keep your cup full, because you really can't give to anybody else unless you yourself are full. My medications every day, every night, I take one of these. I do my Sunday prayers, listening to Amazing Grace. Gets me every time.
Amazing grace, how sweet.
On June 26, 2013, it was my rebirth. Some people call it a manic episode, which I think the psychological world would call it that, and I would agree.
Mania is an abnormally elevated mental state that's characteristic of bipolar disorder.
The manic episode felt like I was trying to document every moment. I felt like I was being persecuted. I sort of would detect in people's eyes, and that's part of the condition, is you have this paranoia. I sort of spun out. I then had like a bit of a breakdown. I ended up in the hospital.
Very scary. Scary to the point where, you're like, oh my God, what is happening? Our whole world is turning upside down. We were so thankful that he was safe and nothing happened to him.
And about 2 weeks later, I was released. I was diagnosed with a bipolar condition.
To be honest with you, it might sound really naive in this day and age. We really didn't know what that meant.
When we talk about mental health, the stigma still exists, no matter where we are globally. What really shines through for me is the vulnerability in which he expresses it. It takes a certain bravery and courage in order to do so.
He's someone who suffers from bipolar disorder, and he wouldn't say suffers.
I think of it as a competitive advantage now, because I have this beautiful creative mind that has these neurotransmitters that fire at a particular rate. That's your gift. And so because of that gift, you have to nourish it. You have to take care of yourself in different ways. Like I have to put in probably 75 minutes of exercise every day just to stay grounded. I have to put in that 4.5 minute meditation, because if I don't, my mind and the thoughts will get ahead of me. I always try to envision what the Big Bang looked like. For me, it's important to think about the Big Bang every day. I figure if something happened 14.1 billion years ago, then everything that's happened up until today, to get to this very day, it is 14 billion years in the making. And so you do not take for granted today. You are blessed with today. And that, I think, fuels me. It's called Joan of Arc Gets Her Pantsuit. I thought about what would it be like to be Joan of Arc's parents, to send her off onto that journey. December 2016, I was working on this. I had an acute manic episode. It was the second acute manic episode of my life. It took a long time to accept, first of all. And then once I recognized that it was a gift and something that was more to my advantage, then I started valuing it a lot more. Because had I not had these synapses and these neurotransmitters firing at the age that I did, I wouldn't have expressed those gifts.
I think one of the magical intersections that we find through Veru's work is that he's Indian American. We're neither fully Indian, and sometimes we're not fully perceived as American. Different worlds coming together, and you see it so strongly in his work. Sometimes there might be a cathedral, then you'll see women in saris. I draw from a lot of things, not just my own culture, but also Christianity and Buddhism, and just staying present. The way he is able to meld both sides of his life allows for his paintings to really emote at a level that vibrates with almost anybody.
I actually did my first oil painting at age 17. It was a painting called Refulgence. It was about this woman. I always envisioned she was sort of like kind of getting freed up from some domestic violence or something that she just broke free from. I'd put this painting in my college application to engineering school. The highlight, I think, was I got to exhibit at Columbia at the School of Visual Arts. It was called The Experience of Hands. I was very much a student teaching myself through art. You were studying the state of Islam post 9/11. You were studying dancers that were triumphing in gas explosions. These are not works that are just like, it reaffirmed the fact that I should go after the more innovative works. Those works, they were globally conscious works, but they were also ones I was working through some of my own sexuality. And so there were oftentimes things where it was more fluid, it was more ambiguous.
Not only is he creating an art form that is so particular to him, it's an art form that is just, it speaks to everybody.
Ocean of Abundance is one of my favorite collections of his. When you look at it, it's very simple. It feels like you're on the ocean floor, but it immediately draws you in and makes you feel peace. It makes you feel abundance. It makes you feel hope. There's so many different layers and levels that go into it for him to create that abundance on a canvas.
Now I'm interested in going to Mars, and I'm interested in the human experience of what we think about in those 7 minutes of terror. I'm more concerned with not whether you live or die, but that you loved.
I think the time is now for an artist like Veru to come to the forefront.
He can speak to an entire generation.
I think the artist is there to uplift. You have to go deep yourself so that your viewer feels something true.